With the real track fresh on their minds, our drivers will do their best to navigate the corkscrew. Will they pop a bottle of bubbly or will they spiral out? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 4 of the Porsche Owners Club series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. I am Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is former racer Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Christian Duploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. In case you weren't one of the drivers tackling Laguna Seca this weekend, let's head to our track guide for a little refresher. Welcome to Laguna Seca. Located just east of Monterey, California, it's hard to deny that this is one of the more scenic American road courses. It travels up and down a hillside which not only offers spectacular views, but one of racing's most iconic corners. Clocking in at 2.25 miles in length, 11 turns split up the current configuration. I say current because up until 1988, the track's layout was shockingly simple with a mere 9 dangerously fast corners. But despite becoming a much more technical track, this difficult nature was retained in its modern form. Turn 6 in particular places an emphasis on precision and daring with its tricky dip at the apex and narrow racing line. But the most well-known spot on the track is of course the corkscrew. Blind and kinked on entry, it then whips the driver through a chicane which drops you nearly 60 feet. It's earned a reputation worldwide for forcing even the most daring competitors to second-guess themselves. But there's honestly a refreshingly wide variety in types of corners, making it a perfect track for driver coaching and training. Elevation changes, differing cambers, and every sort of apex imaginable leaves seasoned veterans and newcomers alike spending hours trying to perfect a lap. With the track becoming popular for hosting IMSA, IndyCar, and MotoGP in its recent history, it also brings out lots of vintage racers due to the Monterey historics each year. Likely to remain a fixture on the American racing scene, this legendary circuit is almost always high on drivers' best of lists. Its history and its uniqueness are sure to delight all for years to come. Really a beautiful track, and glad that they have it in the sim here. And hopefully this last weekend will help a few of the drivers get some good laps in, Joey.
It looked remarkably like what we just called the last couple days, and so this is that track map, 11 turns of a technical racetrack filled with elevation change. Your best passing opportunity definitely down there, turn number 2, Andretti hairpin. Sector number 1, relatively flat other than that first downhill section, but out of turn number 5, you start the climb up the hill and you see turn 7, turn 8 up there. That is the corkscrew, one of the most famous sections of racetrack. And then it is all downhill. You got to nail turn number 11, but it can also set up for some last lap, last corner fireworks for a pass for the lead.
Certainly is tempting to try and make those overtakes into there. Before we get to the racing, we just want to take a moment to mention our sponsors, which includes Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Top Gun MG, helping financial advisors be the best of the best. Contact them today at TopGunMG.com. That's TopGunMG.com. So as for the championship situation over in the GT3 cars, it is Michael Bolton who is leading by a pretty good margin there over Federico Del Toro, 24 points. But then it is only 3 points back, not just to Heindel, but Scott as well, tied there for that third position. We'll see if either of them can maybe make some inroads on Bolton here tonight. From there, it's a close fight between Steele, Fulton, and Duncan as well. Just 5 points separating those 3 cars. And as well, look at Isabel, Leclerc, and Russell. 2 points between 8th, 9th, and 10th. GT3 pretty close, but it's even closer at the top over those GT4s.
Yeah, we've got the 2 classes, that multi-class format, and only 5 points separating Christopher Marciniak and John Momeyer. The only downside, I don't see Momeyer here logged into this session, so I'm sure that'll shuffle up a little bit. Matt Hollander sitting in 3rd place, 4 points separating himself and Jim Garamani, and you see only 2 points separating Jim and Larry Haas. Alan Watts and Adam Abrams all included here in this Cayman GT4 Championship.
real quickly, if you're not familiar with the format that they run in this series, it is going to be a 40-minute sprint race. Now, they have the two classes, like we mentioned, the GT3 cars, which is the GT3R, and then the GT4 car is what it says. And they have limited the fuel tank capacity on these cars. So that 50% means that they will have to make a stop at least once for fuel during this 40-minute race. They have two spare cars as well if they run into damage. Hopefully there won't be too many drivers that have to resort to that, but regardless, they're there if they need them. So as we wait for qualifying to wrap up, and it looks like actually it just did, so our order has been set, and it looks like Dylan Scott has done a good job taking a provisional pole.
121.949 is going to be that time. We're just waiting for the session to kind of click over from the end of qualifying and into that race session. But you're right, Dylan Scott on pole in those GT3s, and I see down in the Cayman GT4 class, it's going to be Christopher Marciniak in that number 35. He set a time of a 129.823.
Quite a few of these GT3 cars. We'll get through them all here because Dylan Scott, as we said, is on pole position with Michael Bolton starting next to him. Jad Duncan will start from P3 with Thomas Isabel in fourth spot. Then it is Mark Rondeau in fifth and Rob Russell starting from sixth. BJ Fulton will be P7 today, followed by Federico Del Toro in P8. Robert Leclerc starts from ninth. Top 10 going to be rounded out by Matt Hollander. After that, you've got Jeffrey Shulam starting back in 11th, a bit far down for him. Dustin Heindel, same thing. Not used to seeing him all the way down in 12th. Daniel Viverco will be 13th with James Baxter starting in 14th position. Michael Tercy 15th and Will Castillo in the 16th spot with Matt Steele rounding out your GT3 grid.
Then we hop over to our Cayman GT4 class. We got 6 cars out here, and like I said, it is Christopher Marciniak with that lap time of a 129.823, but not very far off is Doug Boccignone, who's going to share row number 1 in that second place. Adam Abrams going to be starting in third with Larry Haas starting in fourth place. And then Jim Garamani and Alan Watts are going to be lined up based off of iRating. You see no lap time set in qualifying, so they are going to share row number 3.
Pretty big field, and what we saw in the real race was that traffic can wind up being an issue. Considering how many they have lining up today, we could have them reaching the back of that field of GT4s relatively quickly. So you see this beautiful hilly track ready to take them around. We'll get that green flag shortly as they line up behind the pace car. How much do you think they can transfer that knowledge from this weekend, Joey?
Well, it's a little bit tricky because, remember, these aren't usually the cars that they're actually driving in real life out there. So it's more just the rhythm of the racetrack. It's always nice to have that real-world reference out there, and you might pick up a couple little things like, oh, I can be a little bit wider on entry down at the Andretti hairpin, or maybe there's a little bit of a better brake marker placement to put the car in turn number 11. But I have a feeling that they can't wait to get in these GT3Rs without any real consequence out here.
Exactly. I can imagine I'm hearing some of them now calling for the Spec Boxster to show up in iRacing at some point because that was very popular out there. But for now, Dylan Scott has control up at the front. He's got the green flag. Some of the drivers hanging back a little bit there, and that's going to cause some 3 wide coming down, and that's actually caused an accident. They're up at the top of the field, and that's going to bring out the yellow flag immediately before the GT4s even get to the starting line. Everybody woes up, and they'll have to get the order sorted out. Thankfully, it is automatic. I see a black flag for Matt Hollander. Some of that may be due to the incident and drivers passing others before the start-finish line.
Yeah, and Federico Del Toro was right in the middle of it. He was actually the one that kind of got away with the least amount of damage. He was 3 wide, and he was the sandwich. So they both kind of closed in, diverged right in front of him. This is an interesting one, Joe, because it's the start of the race. Everybody's a little bit different on how they want their columns and whatnot, but it can get very narrow up and over turn number 1. Remember, Andretti hairpin is not turn number 1. Turn number 1 is just at start-finish line, and it's up over the crest bends to the left. People tend to pinch it drivers left.
So So unfortunately, it looks like Russell, Fulton, and I think you said Del Toro as well, all caught up in that. And sadly, a couple of our GT4 cars, because as Russell was rejoining, I think that it wasn't fully quite clear. So there was some evasive maneuvers that left a little damage on two of our GT4 cars. Good thing that we do have those spare cars, so they will be able to pop in and get back out there. Let's take a look at the replay and try to kind of dissect this one. As soon as I saw that 3 wide happening, I was a bit worried. And then when they started aiming for that first apex at turn 1, Joey, that's when I got scared.
Yeah, you see the gray car in the middle and just the funnel closes in front of them. Everybody's kind of drifting off. Drivers left. BJ Fulton involved in it. And then Rob Russell, if we watch Rob Russell here in the number 20 car, this is the sketchy moment, backing up onto the racing line and causing 2 of those Cayman cars to crash. You know, that one's definitely worth a review post-race in race control.
I agree on that one. That was Baccignone, and I think Adam Abrams was the other one that got a piece of it. No, it looks like it might have been Larry Haas, because he's coming into pit lane probably to take that spare car right now. Have they caught up? I don't think they've caught up to the safety car, have they?
No, and because you had pointed out the Russell rejoin, so I was kind of watching it, and after he rejoined the racetrack, he actually passed the pace car in what was turn number 5 at that point. So I think that we are still trying to catch the pace car. I'm actually going to go see where it is. It is in turn number 3, and I believe our leaders are here at the top of the corkscrew, so they've still got a ways to go.
Bit of a bizarre situation, actually. I guess since it was released as soon as they crossed the line, essentially, they had to catch an entire lap. Thankfully, the pace car just runs along at about 60 miles an hour evenly, so it hasn't been getting too quickly away from them. But they're already into the final corner, and that pace car is right now in at turn 5. We've got another replay. This is from Larry Haas's perspective, and yeah, can't really see much coming up over the hill, and then gets a big thwack to the right-hand side of the car. So no wonder he's come back in, taking one of those spares, and will return.
Yeah, just... I didn't want to see that rejoin, but it's okay. They've got spare cars, like you said, so they're going to go in and get it fixed up. It just kind of shortens this race a little bit. I think we're going to be under kind of a little bit of a prolonged yellow just because they're catching that pace car still. Usually it's only about 2 laps, but I think it's probably going to be 3 because pace car right now is in turn number 10, so they'll catch it soon. But not by the time they reach start-finish this time.
And
well, pace car's in, Joe.
In. Okay.
Yeah.
They just released poor Larry Haas because he was caught behind the pace car.
Yeah.
So he's finally able to go here, but he's so far behind. This is a bit unfortunate, the chaos that has erupted out here. Green flag is already being waved, and Dylan Scott is just coming to the line with the rest of the field not even bunched up behind him. They're still separated. So he's got a gap back to Michael Bolton here. Chad Duncan is a full 10 seconds behind in third.
Yeah, like you said, 10 seconds separating second and third just because it was under a full course yellow, and now they're back racing. Thomas Isabel is the one that's closest in battle as we watch the rest of the field. This is Will Castillo already flashing the lights going down into the brake zone. Little bit deep right there, going to kind of open the door for Rob Russell, the car right behind.
Still have some good battles here in the mid-pack because they are still tightened up. Meanwhile, back up with Thomas Isabel. He's chasing on Chad Duncan for that third position into turn 5. A lot of compression here up the hill, but same thing with turn 6. The cars will really get pushed into the ground, and you need that to climb up out of there through the Ray Hall straight towards the corkscrew.
Yeah, you really want that drive. You got to trust the car in that compression that it's going to, like you said, launch yourself up the hill with that momentum. Look at how close Thomas Isabel in that black number 257, not the black and orange, but the black and gold right here. He got very, very close to the back end. of Jad Duncan. That's the car that he is following right now, just a little bit more aggressive on that brake pedal, going into the corkscrew. Let's see about turn number 11 right here. Seems like Jad has got things under control and actually capitalizes on a nice exit.
Watch out, because that's Mark Rondeau in that gray machine just behind them. The more they fight, the more he's going to be able to start to reel them in down into the braking of the Andretti hairpin. They don't go side by side this time. And in fact, behind them, that was very wide from Rondeau. He loses time instead.
Yeah, it's such a technical racetrack here at Laguna Seca that one little mistake can definitely put you on the back foot and lose you tons of track position. I was curious to see what these lap times were going to be, because we pointed out that 10-second gap. Jad Duncan with a 123.1, Dylan Scott with a 123.1. So really unfortunate that there's such a huge gap, because these cars are on pace with our leaders.
Ooh, great run here from Isabel coming off of turn 6. We told you how important it was getting it up the hill, but he's going to be on the wrong side of the racetrack into that corkscrew, tries to go the long way around. They'll go wheel to wheel, and he gets it done. Isabel, with some bravery, snatches up third.
Nicely done. Larry Haas in the Cayman is directly in front. Quick decision move to get down to the inside, and unfortunately for Jad Duncan, he actually gets held up quite a bit in comparison to his competitor, so he loses just that little bit of problems for Mark Rondeau. I expect that was just a big loose moment coming out of turn 10.
And he was looking at a top 5 here before that incident. He's now down to 13th. That's going to take a lot for him to get back up to where he was, and he'll have to hope for other drivers to also have a few mistakes. We look at Michael Bolton, who is honestly keeping Dylan Scott pretty honest. He's been staying about half a second behind.
Was actually just a touch faster by about a tenth that last lap. Here's the replay in the top right of the screen. Just, yeah, loose on exit. When I watched it, it was actually kind of loose in the middle and just kind of continued and got worse once he rolled onto the throttle. But the most important part, you see that, Joe? He didn't actually hit the concrete wall, so hopefully no damage on the car.
Yeah, that's, I think, by far the most important aspect of this, because, I mean, we've already seen how easy it is to make mistakes here, Joey. I have a feeling the driver who makes the least mistakes is probably going to be one who comes away with a good result.
Typically, that's how it works at Laguna Seca. I mentioned it's such a technical racetrack that if you miss one corner, it can definitely lose you a lot of track position, as we see Rob Russell trying to make his way up through the field after having that first lap incident here. I think I still see a little bit of damage on the front end of this machine, but looks like he got by Will Castillo and he's working on Daniel Viverco. That's the number 17 car directly in front of him.
Yeah, Russell didn't have time to come into the pits to take that repair. James Baxter also with some damage on the nose, though this due to an accident, I guess, after we got restarted out of turn 6. Car able to carry on at least.
Be about busyness down here in turn number 1. Will Castillo trying to keep touch with that number 20 car, who's trying his best to attack the number 17 directly in front of him. Viverco with a really nice acceleration power down phase out of turn number 3, and he does the same exact thing in turn number 4. He ran kind of 2 wheels into the dirt, but kept his foot in it, and you see that gap grow just that little bit to that multicolor, call it pink and black, number 20.
All essentially a battle for P9 with Schulem up there. They're coming up on Jim Garamani, one of our GT4s. This is not the greatest of place to catch him, though, and Schulem probably going to be held up a little bit coming down through the corkscrew as they accordion together, but great move by Garamani. He pulls off to the side at perfectly the right spot and allows all 4 through, but it's not so perfect for Will, and the 88 car is the one that gets the bad end of the stick.
Lost a lot of positioning there, but thankfully no contact. And I want to give props to Will Castillo, because that's not the easiest thing to do when you're the caboose on the train and you want to keep up with your competitors, is to let off of the gas because you're not sure what that slower class car is going to do. Thankfully, Garamani left him room, so he was able to get back on the throttle immediately and not lose a ton, but props to both of them for kind of giving room.
the other strange knock-on effect that we've had because of the way this yellow played out, normally the caution would open up the pit window, but I get the sense everybody was still at full tilt the entire time, so I don't think it'll really affect our pit window all that much.
That's a good point, and yes, I doubt anybody was able to save anything under that yellow. What is interesting, I don't think any of these drivers are actually saving fuel during their runs, but at Laguna Seca, it's not a fuel burn heavy racetrack, so there are ways that you can kind of save a little bit of fuel. Lots of brake zones, lots of coasting areas. Oh, that's really deep contact between Russell and Viverco directly in front of him, bumper to bumper.
They're going to get away with it. He's still looking around the outside. Oh, but he goes off into the dirt, and Russell loses some ground. Viverco lives to fight another day, holding on to that 10th position. That does back up Russell into Castillo once again, and the recovering Rondeau. So he's going to have some more pace in this group.
Rondeau was actually the best exit out of turn number 11 out of this bunch right here. So maybe that gray number 11 is going to be taking a look down the inside. Sure enough, presenting the car into the brake zone. But both of them go deep. That's loose from Castillo, and he spins it in the Andretti hairpin. Nice job avoiding from Mark Rondeau to scoot up the inside.
My goodness, he absolutely threaded the needle. That was a great job considering he was in the middle of the corner to be able to avoid the incident. He had just enough space there down at the apex to kind of squeeze the car through, and he hasn't really lost time to Russell and Viverco, so he's still hot on their heels with a little less than 3/4 of the race to go.
Got to be frustrating, though, for Castillo, because remember, he got held up by that Cayman, and just as he was catching the back end of this group of cars here, here's the replay. Just gets in too deep on the brakes, maybe just squeezes the brakes a little bit longer than what he needed to when it kind of flattens out down there, and around it goes.
And normally you open up that corner in the middle to try and square off the exit, but he had the wisdom to see what was going on, kept the car pinched to the bottom, and off he went. Meanwhile, Hollander here chasing Dustin Heindel. This is for 7th position. They're not far behind Robert Leclerc, who's in the green machine ahead of them. Hollander not shy of making some aggressive moves from time to time. He's too far back for it this time down into Andretti, though.
But it was a little bit wide from that 117 of Dustin Heindel directly in front, and you see the flash of the headlights from Matt Hollander. Just trying to apply a little bit more pressure, take the driver's eyes off of the road and onto the mirror where you're trying to distract them. But it's actually Heindel that starts to stretch it out a little bit. Got through turns 3 and 4 much better than what Matt Hollander did.
Switching over from the GT4s, there was a send right there from Rondeau. They'll give each other just enough space, along with a hello from Mark. Coming up the hill, I don't think they're going to get side by side through there. They think they do, but they won't. And it is going to be Russell who gets shoved out into the gravel, and he leaves a whole bunch of it on the track on top of things.
Yeah, and once again, I don't think that he's... Oh, here's a move for the lead. Michael Bolton starting to attack Dylan Scott. Maybe had a little bit of help from that Cayman GT4 slowing him up down the front straightaway, but no matter what, is on for the lead.
Yeah, that was our leader in the GT4's Marciniak, and he leads in the GT4 points right now, so he's got himself a small gap over Momeyer, who's not racing in that class today, so he could use this good result, try and open that up if possible. Meanwhile, back to on board with Michael Bolton. Going to try and avoid all that gravel that is now scattered across the exit of turn 6. Up the hill we go and into the blind, break into the corkscrew. Gains quite a bit of time, but what about the exit here?
Yeah, the drive down the hill is just as important. See both competitors using all of that track width, and these GT3Rs will certainly have enough grip to give it to him. Bolton stays pretty even here into the brake zone of turn number 11. Let's see about the corner exit. If anything, Dylan Scott was able to nail that corner, was able to edge out just a little bit more over Michael Bolton on that traction power down phase, and now the accordion effect going on the brakes into turn number 2. Michael Bolton closes it in just that little bit, but a huge loose moment in the middle of the corner, kind of like what we saw out of Will Castillo, but Bolton able to hang on to it.
A nice catch, but it did cost him. It's about up to 6/10. He's still within range, just has to close it back down. Now they're coming up to the wounded car of James Baxter, who we saw have an incident at turn 6 before, so he's not up to full pace. It's more of a question of when they're going to catch them, and also whether it's going to affect this battle. And Bolton looks like he's wringing the neck of that car.
He lost that little bit of ground to the leader, and I think you're right. He's just trying his hardest to kind of regather that up, but it doesn't always work in one corner. Sometimes it's got to be lap after lap consistency in order to gain back just those itty-bitty little tenths, and that car gets out of the way nicely for our leaders, so not going to affect the battle at all. I know we've been focusing on these GT3Rs, but that Cayman GT4 race is still going on. Christopher Marciniak right now leads the way. He's got about a 6-second lead over Adam Abrams, who's currently in second. Doug Boccignoni in third, Larry Haas in fourth, and Jim Garamani, like we had talked about, did actually get on the track. He didn't start the race with everybody, but is out there now.
That's good to see. One more friend out there for them to battle with. Sadly, a lap down, like you said, because of the late start. Maybe he had a connection issue or something happened before he could get to the grid. And we got a bit of a hunt here between Schulem and Heindel. Now, they were involved, or at least Schulem was involved in an incident coming through turn 6 this last lap. He had a hiccup there in turn 5. Yeah, here's where it started. And then watch this as he tries to collect the car. Others approaching him. And Viverko, who's been in the thick of the action, finds himself in it once again. Well, 2 wheels off the ground. He's very lucky that he's still in this race, frankly.
That was just kind of closing the door on definitely the car coming up. Maybe a little bit ambitious out of Viverko trying to squeeze it in up the middle, but bottom line was that Schulem was slow on the racetrack, and now he's got to deal with not only Viverko catching him, but Mark Rondeau is Matt Hollander right on the back of Leclerc here. Is he going to make a move going into the corkscrew? Robert covers it off.
He was chasing Heindel before. He's already gotten by, and now he's cut down the gap to that 710 machine out of Rainy Curve. Will we see a move maybe into turn 11? I think that's Marciniak. That's our GT4 leader just in front of them. Whoa, big mistake, and a late weave from Matt Hollander somehow keeps the car pointed the right direction. But boy, there was a lot of lateral movement in that car.
Yeah, he couldn't figure out what side of the racetrack he wanted to, and because of it, emergency lane change maneuvers kind of forced a huge wiggle, and now crazy deep on the brakes going into turn number 2. Leclerc parked that thing right at apex. Hollander gets a little bit of a better exit. Once again, presents the car in turn number 3, trying to do a little bit of an over-under, but I got to say, this bright green number 710 is doing an excellent job placing the car exactly where he needs to. And now Hollander showing a little bit of frustration, running 4 wheels off of the racetrack, just trying to get on the gas as soon as he can.
He has a fire lit under him. And another defense from Leclerc coming up to turn 6. He gets it back onto the racing line almost. He's going to be slightly off of it, and that compromises his exit. Here comes Hollander. He'll get the inside up to the corkscrew. As long as he is deeper on the brakes, he's not, but that actually might save his bacon. That was too deep from Leclerc, and he will have to give it up. Hollander gets 6th place with that one.
I think a little bit of miscommunication up at the top of the hill is what caused that contact, but you were right. I think that Hollander may be a little bit easy on the brakes when I expected him to be a little bit more aggressive, and now that green 710 has also got to deal with Dustin Heindel, because remember, you had just mentioned Hollander had passed this car, but when those two started scrapping, Dustin picked up the pieces, and he's right here.
Nice recovery from Dustin. He may have lost the spot. He could at least make it even back to where he was before he got passed by Hollander. If he can just sneak by this driver. Del Toro, who we saw flashes of, is well ahead of them by about 5 seconds. It's not impossible they could run him down, but he's kind of quietly doing his thing in front of him. He doesn't want any part of this intense racing behind him. Meanwhile, Russell down to the inside of Verco. These two keep swapping paint with numerous other cars, but they always seem to wind up next to each other.
The run down here into turn number 5. You see that Cayman GT4 directly in front of them. Let's see if they're able to navigate it on the exit here on the run up to what is turn number 6. Rob Russell's actually going to be a little bit on the back foot. He's going to have to force this one. Thankfully, these GT3Rs are just so gosh dang fast. They have so much grip, both mechanical and aero, that they're able to fly by those GT4s, and now he's got to drive this thing down the corkscrew here. And actually, Shulam isn't too far up the road either. Looking down the inside of 9, that's usually not a passing opportunity, but maybe just trying to distract Viverco.
Rob was so tempted. It looked like he wanted it, but it did not work. Viverco holds on to that 11th spot. Shulam just in front of him. We know he's had at least one mistake that we've seen already in this race. Are they going to be able to get another one out of him if they can get a little bit closer? They're not close enough this time to put any pressure. Instead, it is once again Russell trying to squeeze something out of Viverco. Very deep on the brakes down into the Andretti hairpin. Doesn't make contact with him, but it looks like he knows he's got an advantage into turn 2.
It's a busy little piece of the racetrack right down here. And yeah, these two cars are definitely duking it out right now. And this is all for what is 11th place. So it doesn't matter if you're up front like Dylan Scott and Michael Bolton, who are only separated by, 0.3 of a second, or back here as Daniel Viverco and Rob Russell duking it out for just outside of the top 10. The racing is good all around.
Scott's still leading, though, even though he doesn't have it by much. And we're now past halfway into this race. Should be seeing some pit stops relatively soon, as that 50% doesn't leave them a whole lot of wiggle room out there. This is back to Scott with Bolton in behind him. It's been roughly half a second between them for much of the race. At times, Michael has been kind of just experimenting, trying to see if he can get his way by, but hasn't really gotten anything that produced what looked like a good result. So I think he'll have to get a little closer, and this is certainly not looking like he is right now as he drops a couple tenths even through these last couple corners.
I want to go back to your talking point maybe 15 minutes ago, though, about the fuel strategy. Remember, we haven't seen anybody hit pit lane yet. Is maybe Michael Bolton just kind of waiting for that opportunity, whether it be an undercut or an overcut, to try to pass Dylan Scott on the racetrack?
I wondered that earlier, too.
Rob Russell just spun it around again.
Yep. That, unfortunately, was at turn 3, backing up quite a ways. Hopefully he doesn't hit the wall and cause more damage. He gets it turned around.
I think he's got a black flag from incident points.
It looks like you're right. Yeah, he's been involved in a lot today, so that's not too great of a shock, but he'll have to give up some time down on pit lane, and he can't take service during that, or else it will give him extra time during that penalty. So, as we watch our leaders, I was about to say before we had that accident, I kind of wondered if Bolton would have pitted earlier in this race, but he didn't. So he's still trying to go the more traditional route of run as long as you can, but he maybe only has 1 or 2 more laps, I think, before they're probably going to be out of fuel.
Here's the problem with the pit early strategy. I agree with you, Joe, but in the sim, the weight plays such a huge factor, and when we have such a short lap and it's a technical lap like Laguna Seca, you want to run the thing as light as you possibly can. So if you've got a heavier car for a longer period of time, i.e. pitting early and refilling it back up, I don't think you can pull off, what would that be, call it a massive undercut at that point. I think it's better to kind of run it to this 92, 95% area, stay with them, and then say, hey, it's only going to be a 1 or 2 lap difference, but that might be all that it takes.
Yeah, I think you may be right on that point. The question is he going to time it right? Because if he runs out of extra laps the same time that Scott does, then they'll have to come in at the same lap. And they're going to be joined by, it looks like, Will Castillo and Rob Russell having taken their pit stops. Russell took his pit stop, but not his penalty, so he's going to have to go right back through again.
And also, here's another caveat about Laguna Seca. I would actually want to pit on a different lap than my closest competitor just because pit road entry and pit road exit is very tricky here. There's time that you can gain or lose depending if you're following a slower car that doesn't know its marks or just completely blows it. So, yeah, I would want to be solo and I would want to try to gain that time on both entry and exit.
Leclerc, our latest, I think we saw briefly, now into pit lane. BJ Fulton is the highest car to have pitted, but okay, it looks like that was on a much earlier lap, so he still owes us a pit stop at this stage. Leclerc now exits, and he is the highest car to have taken a stop, so he'll come out in 11th place, at least a stop that should get him to the finish.
Oh, Michael Bolton, he was going for the undercut attempt, but problems because there was a Cayman GT4 parked in the middle of the road on pit entry, so he had to bail out of it at the last second, but look at what it did. It's gone from about a half a second to 1.3 seconds now because of that decision.
And that's going to make that undercut almost impossible unless he has some incredible laps, so he's got to have to really push here at this stage. It's going to be an even harder ask to come away with the victory as Dylan Scott is trying to chase down Michael Bolton in the points. He's behind him by more than, I think, somewhere around 25 points, actually. So he needs a massive swing in this stage. Even just finishing one position ahead is not going to get him much inroads.
Here's Matt Hollander on pit lane. Doug Boccignone just exited out of pit lane. This was the car that decided to go in, and trust me, Doug did absolutely nothing wrong. It's just that the GT3Rs can brake so much later than the GT4s can going into pit lane, and that's why Michael Bolton lost all that lap time. Nothing that Doug did wrong at all.
Just the unfortunate reality. There we go. Okay, he's going to be pitting this time, and it will be on a different lap from Dylan Scott. Most of the drivers look like a fast pit stop time is going to be about 8.5 seconds or so. Leclerc with 11.4, so he's definitely going to be losing time. Here's the replay on board. Good catch on this one here, Joey. Very much caught out, and that, I mean, that looked like just a split second there, but it did so much damage.
It did so much because he had to get off of the gas on the brakes and then re-accelerate down to turn number 11. And quite honestly, great split-second decision thinking from Michael Bolton to get back out onto the racetrack. And now we'll see that if his pit entry and pit exit was faster than what Dylan Scott can do here in the next, I would assume, coming few laps.
It was a very fast stop, 7.7 seconds. So we now have to wonder, did he put enough fuel in it to get to the end, or is he just cutting it a little bit close compared to all the others out here? 11 minutes left to go. Dylan Scott is coming around Rainy Curve right now, so 2 more corners. We'll find out if he's pitting.
Yeah, and with, call it 10.5 minutes remaining, it's got to be right on the edge there. He's going to go one more time by. Remember, I said that Laguna Seca, not a very fuel burn heavy racetrack, so I wonder really how long Dylan Scott can push it. And I'm always a fan, you heard me just a few minutes ago, that if you can run the car lighter, it's going to get faster.
And it's not good news for Michael Bolton. He's now caught behind Rob Russell, a lapped car. So if he was hoping for that undercut, I mean, there's been numerous factors now. There you see in the upper right of your screen where it's just all conspiring against him.
Thankfully, he's able to get a decent run out of 11. Rob Russell is going to leave room here on the inside of the racetrack, pinches him down just a touch, and Bolton using every single piece of racetrack that he is entitled to, and now finally clears him in the middle of what is turn number 2. But you're right, I think that definitely cost him at least a few tenths, while Dylan Scott, you can see right here on the main screen, has absolutely nothing out the windshield.
He can just keep putting in those hot laps on a much lighter car right now. Just doesn't seem to be going the way of Michael Bolton. He still sits in 4th place, but obviously we need Jad Duncan to take a pit stop along with Isabel and Scott, which I'm guessing should likely be this lap. Let's see. No. So, wow, very good on the fuel for Dylan Scott.
I, I- I'd have to go read the rule book. Competitor brain turning on here. If they're just using a generic percentage, let's say if we've gone to Road America and they used call it a 70% fuel capacity and that got them to that window, if you use that same fuel capacity at a racetrack like Laguna Seca, I wonder if you can stretch it all the way. Do they have to stop? I know that they can't stop under yellow. That was explained to us, but I wonder if they can stretch it. Do they have to stop?
I'm not entirely sure because, I mean, that would be an impressive run if you could do that, especially since the other cars were needing, 7 to 8 seconds of
Right.
fuel. It's not a
Yeah.
small amount, and I don't think Dylan has been going very slow. Chad Duncan, by the way, has now taken his pit stop. He'll be back out in fifth, but we still need Dustin Heindel to take his pit stop, so he'll give that position over to him. Ooh, and I think Jeff Schulem just got a black flag. Yes, he did. That may have been for speeding in pit lane.
I shouldn't also be too surprised. It's not very uncommon that these guys push it to 5 minutes, 7 minutes. Here he comes down into pit lane with 8 minutes remaining in this race. So he did 23 laps on this fuel stint and now is going to bring it down. The big question, Michael Bolton was stationary for 7.7 seconds. And like you said, that was the fastest out of anybody. I wonder if he short-filled it to try to make up a little bit of track position. If you can get in the lead, you might be able to hold somebody up and stretch it to the end.
Scott hits his marks. Bolton set a 22-1 on the last lap, which is even to what Scott had been running. He gets out of his box now, though, and he is on his way. He might be ahead, but have to remember that you have to go a little bit slower to that inside. It is a shorter distance, though. They might actually come out just about even. No, Dylan Scott is going to stay ahead, but it is by a smaller margin than I thought it would be.
Pretty close between the two. It was about 1.5, 1.7 seconds when they started the pit stop cycle. And now it's down to only about 0.7 of a second. They're showing in second and third right now because Thomas Isabel is still out on the racetrack. He did not come down pit lane yet. I assume he'll be down this time.
Yep. He and James Baxter still owe us a pit stop. They're going to be the last two. So what are P2 and P3 will eventually work their way back up to the top. This is P1 over in the GT4s. It's about 4 seconds between himself and Adam Abrams currently. The GT4 that he just went by was Jim Garamani, so that was lapping that other GT4 car.
Yeah, Marciniak actually just pitted about a lap ago. So everybody in this GT4 class good to go to the end on fuel, and those are the representative gaps. Remember, Marciniak got pole position and has led every single lap so far in that class. Thomas Isabel, I see, has finally hit pit lane.
There we go. That hands it over to Scott now. And who is that behind them? Is that that's BJ Fulton? Okay, so that's a lapped car that they're currently ahead of. That's not an issue. It's about 12 seconds down to Isabel, who returns back into P3, well ahead of Chad Duncan. So that's looking like Thomas is going to be taking our final podium spot unless something goes awry for the final 5 minutes of his race. The heat is still on for Dylan Scott. He's not been able to shake Michael Bolton, but now Bolton has the unenviable task of having to make the pass on track.
It's going to be difficult. Remember, he couldn't get close enough earlier in this race, and I got to say, what has changed to make that difference? So he's going to have to find something different, either in his driving style or maybe a mistake out of Dylan Scott to get him there, as we see Rob Russell. Nice move down the inside. Ooh, jumps over the apex curb a little bit. I think he was just trying to provide a little bit of extra room as he went by James Baxter there in the corkscrew.
And remember, Baxter probably still owes us a stop. That said, it was 19 laps ago. Depending on how many we have left, he may have done the reverse strategy there and could be able to get to the end, but it's going to be rather tight. So, as he lets Rob Russell carry on, Rob has served his penalty. He's still running in 12th today. Unfortunately, from 10th on down, it is 2 points for everybody. So Doesn't matter where he finishes after those top 10, he'll still get the same amount of points at the end of the race. Michael Bolton, though, it is a 5-point swing between himself and Scott if they switch places.
Dylan Scott's trying to put his foot down on this race right now. That last lap time, a 1:21.6. That is about a 1/10 of a second off of his fastest lap of the race. Michael Bolton back here really struggling to keep it on the racetrack. His last lap time, a 22.1, so about a half a second difference. And even on this lap, you can see the gap even extending more, now up to 1.1 seconds.
It does feel like Bolton has been maybe a little bit more on edge than Dylan Scott in this race. We've seen a number of mistakes throughout, whereas Dylan Scott, I mean, kudos to the way he's been playing defense. In fact, I don't really think he's had to defend all that much that we've been watching this entire race. It's been steady as she goes.
Sometimes that's how a race leader just needs to manage it, right? Is go out there and turn those consistent laps, even if you've got a competitor that's, call it as fast. If you are at the exact same speed and hitting the exact same marks, well, guess what? They're not going to be able to get by you. It's just limiting those mistakes. And like you said, steady as she goes out front. Dylan Scott now up to 1.2 seconds.
Isabel gained a position from where he gridded up from P4 to P3, so that's not too bad of a race. But honestly, our biggest gainer is Dustin Heindel back in 7th. He has climbed 5 positions from where he began this race to get that 7th place. Just has to try and bring it home from there. He's got about 2.5 seconds to Matt Hollander, but as we saw earlier, Hollander seems to be just mildly quicker. At least he was earlier in the race, so don't know how likely it'll be in such little time left to be able to try and close that down. Speaking of which, 0.7 of a second here with 2 minutes to go. Bolton can still get up to Dylan Scott, but the chances are coming less and less, as that was Larry Haas off the track between 9 and 10.
Yeah, it was definitely re-entering from usually the paddock exit over there, but finally found his way back onto the asphalt, so he'll continue on. 2 minutes remaining as the leaders cross the line here. That should be 2 more laps. I was going to point out that Matt Hollander, faster than Federico Del Toro, who's faster than Jad Duncan, so those 3 are going to accordion up together. There's just not enough time in this race for the gaps to really close for the fight to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, Hollander, if he had a couple more laps, maybe could have gotten Del Toro, but Federico's 8.5 seconds behind Duncan. So yeah, he needed a much longer race, I think, here at the end. Next time by, going to be white flag, 1 to go. And Bolton again dropping back. It is now 1.2 seconds behind Dylan Scott. It doesn't seem like he has the juice here at the end. And again, going just a bit off track, maybe overdriving the car here at the end.
Yeah, and, I want to give a shout-out to this 3rd car in the train, BJ Fulton, because he was so respectful in letting the leaders by. Joe, remember, he was one of the cars that got caught up in that lap 1 kind of schmozzle back here, but ever since Bolton and Dylan Scott have passed him, BJ Fulton is matching the pace. 21.9 that last time by was actually 0.2 faster than our leader, so even though he's a lap down, doesn't seem like he's lost any speed, just doesn't have the track position today.
That's always got to be so frustrating, knowing that the pace was there. It just one mistake at the start undid the entire effort for him. He is still looking at 11th place, but he's 17 seconds behind Viverco, so that's about where he's going to stay at best. Meanwhile, as we watch from Bolton, is using up, if he had saved those incident points with the off tracks, he's using them up now.
Remember how I was making the comment during this weekend how that driver on board kind of looked like the sim? I mean, the sim is lacking one of the screens, right? So it just kind of proves my point.
It's a good point, yeah. And as he whips it through turn 6, man, it is up to 1.1 seconds behind Scott once again. There is the lap traffic of Doug Boccignone. He stays off to the left side. So does Jim Garamani. Very good job by Jim to find a way to escape this group of cars trying to blast past. And I think we should see Doug, be able to just kind of step off to the side pretty briefly there. So, as we come down to the line, are we getting the white flag here?
No, this is final lap. This is checker.
All right, so Dylan Scott withstood the pressure, and that's going to get him a win, cutting down the gap to the leader in points, Michael Bolton, who follows him home in P2. An excellent response from the 08 today.
Thomas Isabel is on the front straightaway right now. He's going to cross the line in third, rounding out the podium in those GT3Rs. It's a little ways for the next winner in class. Jad Duncan here in fourth place in these GT3s. I was just trying to find Christopher Marciniak, Joe. It looks like he's actually accelerating up the hill towards turn number 6, so we'll watch the rest of these cars cross the line.
He was one of the last cars to get across, so he'll get a lap over every one of the other GT4s. He is already our winner. There he is, coming up the hill in that number 35, so just a victory lap that he gets to celebrate. A nice top 5 for Del Toro, as we mentioned, kind of running a nice quiet race back there in the GT3s. And then Adam Abrams and Doug Boccignone going to get themselves onto the podium for the GT4s. So celebrations for them. As there we see Adam Abrams there on the top right of your screen briefly. So Christopher Marciniak leading the points, extends that now over Momeyer, who was unable to attend today.
Perfect race for that number 35. Pole position, fastest lap in class, was the only car that went sub 130 in those Cayman GT4s for a lap time, and of course collects that checkered flag at the end.
That's going to take us to our results for this race. As we mentioned, Dylan Scott collects a victory, and it's his second victory of the season in the first 4 races. He has split those with Michael Bolton. It is Bolton who comes home in P2 after that one. Thomas Isabel gets a nice podium. I'm checking to see if that's, that might be his first podium this season, I think. Jad Duncan was P4, and Federico Del Toro was 5th. Hollander with a nice run from 10th to 6th today. Heindel does one better, going from 12th to 7th. And then you've got Robert Leclerc finishing in P8, Mark Rondo in 9th, and Daniel Vaverko in 10th position. Last on the lead lap, BJ Fulton. It all unraveled pretty much at the very start. He'll only collect 11th because of that. Russell was 12th, Shulam was 13th, Castillo 14th, and it was Baxter 15th, with Terzi and Matt Steele not starting this race.
Over to those Cayman GT4s, we watched Christopher Marciniak in that victory lap in that number 35. Is going to be scored a whole lap ahead of Adam Abrams, who comes home in second place. Nice job from him to move up a spot from where he qualified. Doug Boccignone going to finish in third, with Larry Haas out here in fourth. Jim Garamani did get on the racetrack, but unfortunately, because he didn't get out there with everybody, he was kind of caught behind that pace car. That's why he was an additional lap down. And then Alan Watts did not actually start today.
Looks like we've got our winner ready to chat with us. Dylan Scott taking his first win since round 1 this season, and striking back to try to cut down on Michael Bolton's lead. Dylan, it looked like you had a mirror absolutely full of that 127, but I don't think we ever saw you blink that whole race.
Yeah, well, I need eye drops now, but yeah, when you talk to that Bolton guy, could you tell him to slow down, please? I don't know what he's thinking, right? Like, enough already. No, Michael's declared that he's here to play, and I appreciate that. Him and I have had a good time, as with the other POC guys, always a good bunch of guys. But yeah, Michael has made it clear that he's going after this championship, and I couldn't make the race a couple races ago. Some family stuff came up, so I'm in a bit of a hole, but we'll see what we can do. Try and fight back, huh? It's a bit of pandemonium at the beginning. I don't know if you guys want to talk about that, but it was a bit chaotic.
We got some chances to talk about it, so we don't need to dwell on it.
Right.
So you talked about how he was pressuring you. We actually, I don't know if you were aware, but we saw him get held up during the difference in the pit stops, where we thought he would come out a little bit farther behind, but when you exited, he was right there. Were you aware that it was going to be that close?
No, I wasn't. But he made a smart choice to pit when he did, because I got immediately caught behind a couple of GT4s on that initial lap. I think I lost a bit of time at that point. But I feel like we were probably identical in lap times. I don't think it was anything between us. I ran a practice race during the week behind someone else, and I couldn't get past no matter what I did. And so I figured as long as I kept it on the island, didn't make any mistakes, he would have a hard time trying to get past me. And so I used that as strategy against him. Sorry, Michael, but this is racing.
Indeed it is. Well, you had a fantastic race out there. Like we said, it looked flawless from our perspective. So congratulations on the win.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you guys, GSRC, POC. Quick shout out, my kids, Nico, Luca, Rora. Love you guys.
Dylan Scott, your winner here today. And I believe Joey has caught up with the man who finished second behind him, Michael Bolton.
Yeah, Michael Bolton, congrats on the second. It seems like a little bit of a frustrating second place, though.
Always good to be on the podium. What's up, guys? Yeah, Dylan just really he brought the A game, and tried to keep as honest as I could. Tried to go for a little undercut there, but
Yeah. Talk to me about that, because you did try to undercut, but you tried to undercut the lap before, but it didn't work out.
Yeah, I ended up trying to pit one lap before I actually hit the pit lane, and I was gonna go right around this GT4, but the GT4 decided to pit, so I kind of dove back in and did one more lap. But yeah, that kind of slowed me down to I think 1.3 behind, and I think I made around a 4 or 5 tenths back in pit lane. Just wasn't enough. But yeah, Dylan. Shout out to Dylan. He really crushed this one, and he deserves the win.
I gotta ask you, do you feel that if you didn't get held up on that first pit entry attempt, you might have been able to leapfrog him? Because like you said, you shaved time on entry and exit there. It would have been really close.
Yeah, I think it would have been maybe a little bit better TV. But it was also nice for Dylan. Thank you, Dylan, for throwing those cones at me. I really appreciate that. It's like Mario Kart out there. Want to give a huge shout out to my beautiful wife and my family back home, and yeah, hope to see you guys on the podium on the next one.
Well, thank you, and providing us some great entertainment. That was Michael Bolton finishing second here at Laguna Seca.
Thank you, guys.
Up next is our winner in the GT4s, collecting some handy points this season, taking his third win in 4 races. Chris Marciniak. Chris, it looked like you had this one well under control, but it didn't start under control, it seems.
No, it didn't. It was a little madhouse right off into that yellow, but thought we were gonna keep up, but where the pace car came out and then tucked away, we were we were racing before we knew it. So oh yeah, the Laguna Seca, what a track! Definitely, it's in every single racing game forever, and it really takes a lot of practice to get sharp. And even if you have 1,000 hours in it in another game, you definitely need to practice in here.
It looks like you put the practice in, because while others kind of faltered, you just cruised home to a victory. With that, our producer is asking when you're going to switch up to GT3. It sounds like he wants to see you get some competition.
Yep, yeah. See, I'd like to get a year worth in the bag, and then definitely would love to move up. But I have to say, both Doug and Adam, I was looking at the times in the rearview mirror, and I mean, I saw 130 from them all night. So we were ticking off the laps, and I only had a little mistake coming off the corkscrew with maybe 5 laps to go. Had a little opposite lock situation, and I was like, I looked back, and anything could have happened.
Yeah, these guys make sure that you cannot flinch that entire time. Again, an excellent
Absolutely.
race and great third win today.
Thanks so much.
That was Chris Marciniak. And lastly, with what we believe is his first podium of the season, Joey's caught up with Thomas Isabel.
Yeah, Thomas, congrats on that podium. Good job today.
Appreciate it, guys. It was a bit of a strange start, obviously, with the yellow flag situation, but at least tried to keep putting in laps. And if those two knuckleheads ran into each other up front, I would have been there. But no, they drove a great race, so just tried to keep it consistent.
Well, and it certainly seemed like you had the speed today. You know, you look at your fastest lap, and it was right there with those top two. I know things kind of got shuffled around a little bit under that safety car. Do you feel like you could have ran with them up front today?
That's what I would have liked to believe. Again, I don't want to underestimate the pace that Dylan and Michael were putting in, but yeah, I was kind of popping up and looking at, race pace and laps I was putting in, and typically they were pretty on top unless one of us, ran into traffic. So, but at the end of the day, also messing up qualifying didn't help, and that just shows that really got to put in more practice. I had maybe 10-20 minutes of this before the race, so I started to feel more comfortable through the race. So that's where you saw that pace, but should have come in hot off qualifying.
Well, keep up the good work. You'll definitely be up there running up front for the podiums for the rest of the season for sure. Great job out there, Thomas, and we'll let you go.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Everything you do. Look forward to the next one.
That was the driver of the 257 coming home with the first podium of the year today.
Some great interviews and some enlightening ones today, but before we go, we want to give a big thank you to our sponsors once again. Porsche, there is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com, and Top Gun MG. Contact them today at TopGunMG.com. Thanks to the team, Joey, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. But next time, we are going to VIR for this series. That's another very technical track, but a lot faster than what we have here. That'll be September 8th at 10 p.m. Eastern. Next on the channel, though, we'll be back with the Grand Prix Legends at Mosport, so make sure and tune in for that one. Be sure to check out all of our other broadcasts that we have listed here, but until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.
This is iRacing.